Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Book of Briana, a podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Briana Whiteside, and I'm so excited to welcome you to another episode. Y'all, we are about to enter into Q2, which means you have another 90 days to get your life together. I mean, the way that I live my life, and this is how I'm so productive, and I want to share this with you. If you need it, go ahead and adopt it. I live my life on 90-day cycles. So where some people may say, oh, you have 365 days to complete a goal, I said, oh, you have 90 days to complete a goal. And because I don't give myself that extended amount of time of 365 days, I am able to meet my goals, reach them, or reassess where did you fall short, what do you need to work, what did you need to get in order to do what you need to do here. And so I want you to reevaluate your Q1 and ask yourself, did I do all of the things that I said I was gonna do? And if you did not, no shade. Let's reevaluate, let's reassess, and let's get it done in Q2. Y'all, we are wrapping up our segment on stewardship. We've been on the topic of stewardship all March, and now we are closing this section out with talking about stewarding your relationships. Yeah, your relationships. Your relationships matter, and what you don't steward, you will lose. What you don't steward, you will lose. It's never fun losing friendships, is it? Never fun losing relationships, is it? Because of neglect. And that's not what I want you to do. And I want to kind of start this episode off by telling you about a time that I lost a friend. A time that I lost a friend, and it really hurt my feelings to lose this friend. I don't have a lot of friends. I have some really solid people in my life. Let me be clear. I have some really solid friends. Y'all have seen a lot of them, but I don't have like extended groups of friends, right? My people are my people. I keep them close. I value them. I love them, and I show up for them. And so relationships are so important to me. And so when I lost this friend, I was really hurt by it. I am not someone, and I know I'd be having these hard conversations with y'all, but when I'm with my friends, I don't want to be the one to have the tough conversation or the wisdom conversation. Like sometimes I just want to be regular, smegular, kiki, not do nothing. And we do that, but there are times when we have to have the hard conversations. And I remember telling a mutual friend of the friend that I lost, I said, hey, I'm going to have this conversation with her. I don't want to have this conversation with her because it's going to be a tough conversation. But I feel like God has been leading me to have this conversation with her. So I'm telling this mutual friend, asking the mutual friend to pray for me because it could go south. And I knew that the conversation had the potential to go south just based on the sensitivity of the topic that we were going to have to talk about. So y'all, fast forward. And I tell God, okay, I'm not going to approach this topic. If the door opens for me to have the conversation, then I will have the conversation. But I am not about to just start the conversation. I'm not going to do that. Y'all, be careful what you say, because the door opened that very evening. And I said, dang it, gonna have to have it. Long story short, this friend was going through a major life transition. And it was unexpected. She was lost. She, was struggling. And, I knew this. I knew she was struggling with it. I knew how she felt about it. And we had maybe before we had the hard conversation, we probably had 2 or 3 sympathetic conversations, 2 or 3, conversations where we talked through things. But this last one, I knew that it wasn't going to be one of those comforting conversations. It was going to be one of those, all right, girl, you got to put your big girl panties on. We're gonna have to figure it out. She calls me one day, she's in tears, she's telling me how she feels, and I said, okay, you're gonna have to make a decision. You're gonna have to get up from here. And I'm not saying it as blanket like I'm telling you now. I said it with some passion, but I needed her to understand, like, yo, you can't stay here. This is dangerous. We can't keep going around this mountain. We're gonna have to do something that will help you get out of this situation, right? And so as I'm having a hard conversation, as we're talking, the phone hangs up. So I text her, hey, what happened? And she's like, my phone died. I'll call you back when it charges up. Well, long story short, I never got a phone call back. I guess she never charged the phone up. But the next thing I knew is that we weren't friends anymore. And this is how I figured out we weren't friends anymore. We weren't friends anymore because I'm on social media one day, I'm on Instagram one day, and on my Explore page, Instagram suggests her as a friend to me. And I'm thinking to myself, this shouldn't be a suggestion because we should still be friends on Instagram. So I click the reel of her and I see, you know, that little option that says follow, and I'm like, follow? I didn't unfollow her. So how did she get unfollowed? And so I went to her page, lo and behold, she wasn't following me, I wasn't following her. So what I believe happened was she unfollowed me and then she unfollowed her for me. I hope that makes sense. And we never had a conversation about it. We never had a discussion. I didn't bring it up because at that point my feelings was hurt, because I'm like, one, I didn't want to have this conversation in the first place. Two, it sucks. It sucks to lose a friend and not really be able to either apologize, or it sucks to lose a friend and not even know why you losing this friend. Like, we should have been able to have a conversation about it. If I offended you, we should have been able to have this conversation about it, and we should have been able to work through it, not end a great friendship that we had up until that point. Like, we had never gotten into it or anything. That was the first time. I remember being so hurt because I felt like God had literally led us together in friendship. You know, sometimes you have destiny friends, and I felt that God was bringing us together to be destiny friends. We were good friends. That was my girl. But that situation ended the friendship. Whether I agree or not, it ended the friendship. And so we never had a discussion about it. Never. We never talked about it. We both talked to the mutual friend who was kind of in the middle of it. And I was like, yo, like, it's fine with me if you still want to be friends with her. I don't want you to feel like you have to choose between she and I. But I did lose that friendship, and it did hurt my feelings. And when I found out later from the mutual friend is, you know, they had a conversation about it years later. And she was just basically the girl who, you know, we stopped being friends. She just said, like, yo, like, there was a lot of insecurity in our friendship. Like, Bree, everything she touches turns to gold, and, you know, it's hard to be her friend because she has so much capacity and she does so many things, and I didn't feel like I had anything to offer her in the friendship. And that was tough for me to hear, because I'm like, I don't need what most people need in friendships. I'm not a needy friend, right? I am the friend who, you know, we gonna do. But to hear that my presence, my essence made someone feel insecure was hard. And this is no shade to her. This is no shade to her. I understand how she could feel that way. But that was my girl, right? And we still haven't reconciled. I don't know if we will. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I want to talk about the importance of relationships and the importance of having the hard conversations before you go ghost. Y'all, we are in a season where people are falling off left and right. We're in a time where we need each other. We are better together. And I know the enemy will love to work hard against relationships. Not just you and your man, not just you and your woman, but you and your friend. And your friendship does matter. Your friendships matter. Your romantic relationships matter. And your familial relationships matter. And this is me encouraging you to rectify the situation if you can. We have to steward people well. People are not disposable. And I know we're in this culture where we, you know, it's kind of transactional and people act like they don't care about people, but people are gifts. People are important. People do not deserve to be thrown away. And I think we have to be a little bit more mature when we're entering and exiting relationships. Have the hard conversations. Have them. If you're not feeling something with someone, tell them. I know that's hard, but they deserve to know, and they may deserve to change the behavior that may be turning you off. Who knows? We can't keep affording to cut off relationships prematurely. I cut off a relationship prematurely back in the day, and you know, sometimes I still think about, like, yo, what if you would have been more mature and had a conversation instead of cutting off the relationship, ending the relationship prematurely? Like, I was shook. And it affected me. I didn't think it was gonna affect me like it did, but it did. And I said, you should have had a conversation before you did that. Before you decided that this ain't gonna work out, you should have had a conversation, and y'all should have tried everything to ensure that it was gonna work out. But my immaturity, my trauma, all of the things that were still working against me that I hadn't fully worked out led me to terminate the relationship that could have been a good one. Who knows? It could have been a good one, right? But I'm standing here on the other side of that saying people matter. And you may matter to people. Sometimes you may have more emotional maturity than someone. So you may have to help them along a little bit. You may have to give them the tools to communicate. But they matter and they're worth the struggle. Now, I'm not saying stay in struggle love. I'm not saying stay in the Lulu land. But if you have quality people in your life, you are blessed. And you should not be willing to just throw quality people away, especially not in the times and seasons we live in now. No. People matter. Just like you matter, other people matter too. And so we have to be better at stewarding relationships. We have to be better at having conversations and not blowing up at each other. We have to be better at listening, being at a place of listening, as opposed to just trying to respond and defend ourselves. Do you know that when you are in defense mode, you can't really hear what the other person is saying because you're still trying to defend yourself? You're only trying to hear enough to defend yourself against what they're saying. So you've automatically positioned yourself as their opponent. Automatically position yourself as someone who is at war with them. But maybe you don't need to be at war. What if you don't need to be at war? What if all you need to do is be at a place of listening and then say, okay, this is what I heard you say. What I heard you say was blah, 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 blah. Is this what you meant? And they may say yes, and they may say no. If they say yes, you have, the go ahead to respond. If they say no, they're going to probably clarify. This is how communication works. I know a lot of people say, in relationships, the most important thing is communication. No. The most important thing is understanding, because there are communication barriers in relationships. And here's what I mean. I can say one thing and you can hear another. I said what I said, but you heard what you heard, right? You heard, and sometimes people can't hear past the explosion. And so therefore, when they respond, they're responding from what they heard, not from what I communicated. So they don't have an understanding. And so if we don't get to pass these understanding barriers, then we won't be able to have productive relationships with people. So we have to get to a place where we're willing to understand, and not saying like, oh, I understand why they had this bad attitude. No, I don't understand why at your big age you got this bad attitude. It's immature, it's problematic. But, oh, I understand what you meant when you said that. Oh, I understand this scenario. I don't know why I'm going this way, but I am. Understanding is so important. Understanding is how we move forward as a people, as family, as friends. We need to understand. Everyone is not against you. Everyone is not trying to hurt your feelings. Everyone is not trying to get over on you. Some people generally do care. And if they're in your life, I hope you have decided to have quality people around you that are worth the fight, that are worth the effort, that are worth the struggle. Because you are wading through years of experiences, years of things they may not have said or talked about and things of that nature. And so I think that we need to understand that relationships do take work. They're not impossible. They may be a little bit challenging, but so are you. You're challenging too for someone. Your personality is challenging for someone, and you would want them to have grace for you. And that's what I think. Like, that's how I think about it. I think that we have to be better at stewarding our relationships well as the opportunities that come with the relationships that we have. Every person you are connected to does have some type of potential capability or some type of value to add to your life. It's so funny because sometimes I ask my younger brother, a question about guys. And you know, he's my younger brother, but he's of age. He is a guy. I am not a guy. And so if I have a question, I'm not gonna go to another woman, because she can't tell me. She gonna probably think the same way I'm thinking. I'm going to go to a man and say, hey, such and such happened, blah 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 blah, what do you think this really means? And he may tell me, and he may, you know, be correct, or he may be in the general ballpark, but I've heard his perspective and I value his perspective, right? Because what I went to him for, he may have the answer to. And so it's so funny that not only am I the big sister who pours, he is the younger brother sometimes who pours as well. And it is this reciprocal relationship that, you know, is truly beneficial to our family, to our familial dynamic. And so maturity is not based on age all the time. I'll say that again. Age is not synonymous with maturity. But when you do have wise people, and you do have people who know a little bit more than you, or maybe well versed in a way that you're not well versed, it's okay to go to them. It's okay to ask. You should not be asking the same person who's struggling in the same area what they think. I think that is delulu. Y'all both got the same problem. Y'all are in a echo chamber, and y'all are sounding off with bad sounds. Let's not do that. Let's get off the hamster wheel of bad decisions, of bad relationships. Let's not stay in things that are not beneficial to our mental and emotional health. Let's get out of those abusive relationships. This is not a Receteza situation. And you know, I didn't listen to that lady's story because I felt that it was maybe a trauma dump. And though, you know, this is her story, this is not to discredit anything that she has gone through or experienced. For me, sometimes a lot is just a lot. From what I hear, and this is secondhand information, that she got bamboozled, maybe, I don't know, or maybe her desire or desperation caused her to overlook certain things she shouldn't have overlooked. I'm not on anybody's side here. This is just what I think. And I think that, you know, in order for us to steward relationships well, we have to do inner healing work. We have to do the inner healing emotional work. We have to learn how to use our words. We have to know when we are being lied to and have the courage to walk away, because I've had my fair share of staying because I didn't have the courage and wondered, well, if, you know, I don't have this person, and who's gonna love me? No, girl, like, nah. You gotta love yourself. And I remember when I had to go on this journey of loving myself, and this is not in this narcissistic way, but when I had to get on this journey of loving myself, but actually discovering who I was like, yo, you put up with a whole lot, girl. More than you should have. And you have inflicted trauma on people because you didn't know who you were. I'm not gonna act like I'm a saint here. I'm not. But I'm just saying, when you are unhealed, you don't hear properly, but also you make decisions from an unhealed place. And you know, you can't really blame other people. Yes, you would hope that people would be compassionate and responsible enough not to do certain things, but you can't always depend on that. That's why you have to do your work to be responsible and healed enough, you know, to make the proper decisions. This is all about deciding this, but this is also about being in the proper relationships that will help push you towards destiny, and not in the relationships that will help pull you off the chair of where you're trying to stay on top of. I always say this when I'm talking to people about suitability, or talking to people about differences in relationships that I may experience. I say, you know, it's more difficult for me to pull you up on the chair that I'm on than you to pull me off the chair. It's a gravity thing. Like, it's easy for you to reach up and pull down. It takes more strength to pull up. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever tried to do a pull up in a gym? Baby, your whole life will be at stake, okay? Because you don't realize just how much upper body strength it takes. And this is the same is true in relationships. We need to steward our relationships well. So this means, y'all, and I have to say this, forgive your parents. Forgive your parents. They did their best. They did what they could with the information they had. Forgive your parents. Forgive them for your idea of who they should have been. Forgive them for what they did to you. Forgive them for what they did not do for you. Forgive them for your idea. Forgive them for not being like someone else's parents. Forgive them for being human. I remember I used to be so hard on my parents. So hard. Now I'm not a parent yet. So generally people say, I used to be so hard on my parents till I became a parent. No, I used to just be so hard on my parents. Hypercritical. Because I didn't grow up in a way that I felt that I should have and I felt that I deserved. So I was angry. And then I went on this healing journey and I had to do a lot of apologizing. And when I started to have the conversations with my parents, not from a daughter to parent, but like from woman to woman or woman to man as an adult, I started to see them differently. I started to appreciate them more. I started to understand who they were. Human, trying. And I don't know what type of parent I would have been had I had a child at 17 and 21. That's how old my parents were. I don't know what kind of parent I would have been. Now that I'm older, wiser, done some healing work, gave my life to Jesus, living a different way, I can hope to give my one day children a better childhood. But if I would have, the 17-year-old Briana, no. The 21-year-old Briana, no. Don't get near one of them a kid. You know what I'm saying? But it took me maturing. It took me also realizing, like, I do want a relationship with my parents. I do. So what do we need to do to get past whatever happened that I don't agree with? What do we need to do to make it work? And for the most part, we've done that work. For the most part, we've done that work. My relationships with my parents is fine. It's good. It's dandy. But it wouldn't have happened without forgiveness and wanting to understand, where did you come from? Tell me how your relationship was with your mother, and tell me how you had to figure it out as a man or a woman. Like, tell me. I want to understand, because if I'm only listening through the child-stained ears, I'll never be able to hear you. But if I start to listen to you through healed ears, I'll be able to understand and forgive you. And that's what I want, because I want a relationship, right? And so, those relationships matter with your friends, with your family, your siblings, your parents. Every relationship matters. A lot of things rise and fall on relationships. And I need you not to be arrogant, prideful, to say, well, they did blah, 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 blah. Okay. But I need to ask you this. They did do that. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be reconciled? Now, there is a scripture in the Bible that basically tells us, hey, live in peace if you are able to. If you're not, part ways, basically. So if you're not, fine. But if there is an opportunity for that to happen, will you take up that opportunity? Will you be the person who I know you can be to say, hey, let's figure this out? And if the figuring out leads to, we're just going to stay in our separate corners, then okay, that's fine. But if there is a chance that you don't have to stay in your separate corners, I want you to consider it. Do you owe someone an apology? Do you owe someone an explanation? If so, give them that apology today. Give them that explanation today. And move forward in peace with each other. Because life is short. You never know when your last day or someone's last day would be. Have that conversation. Value your people, love yourself, and keep moving forward. We need to learn how to steward relationships properly. We need to stop throwing people away. We need to stop canceling people when they don't deserve it and when they've just made an honest mistake, a human mistake. And we need to practice forgiveness. Not only for other people, but forgiveness for ourselves. How is your relationship with yourself? Are you kind to you? Have you forgiven yourself for those things you did in your childhood or in your past? How do you see yourself? You know what I mean? And so your relationship health with other people really does begin with your relationship health with yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody else. You're not capable of it. But when you do love yourself and you value yourself, the Bible tells you to love your neighbor as yourself. So if you're loving someone else poorly, could it be that you don't love yourself properly? These are just things to think about. We have to steward everything that God gives us well, because whatever you don't take care of, you'll lose it. And wouldn't that be a shame? I'm going to stop there. I hope this is giving you something to think about. A lot of things to think about, actually. We done went through a whole gamut of things. But I hope this has encouraged you to steward your relationships better. Everyone is not disposable. You're not disposable, right? So let's practice being better to people in our lives, because you do need them. They are valuable, and God gave them to you for a reason sometimes. You know, you may not like them. Sometimes your family, right? You may not like them, but they are your family. And, you know, it is what it is. I will talk to you soon in another installment of the Book of Briana. If this has encouraged you, if you enjoyed the content, please like it, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, and I will see you in a bit. Let me be the first to welcome you to quarter 2. Let's get it. Talk to you soon.